Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Operation Makeover, also known as Project Makeover, a Korean romantic comedy from 2007. Now, when I was scouring the internet looking for more Korean movies to review on this channel, I was especially interested in rewatching this one because I recently noticed when I was looking, I came across this on streaming. This was a much hated film when it came out, and I don't think I really remember that, by both critics and fans. Both did not really like this movie very much, but I remember liking it quite a bit, actually, so I got a little excited. I'm like, it's time for a reassessment of an unpopular opinion that I might have. So it was a long-needed second viewing because I haven't seen this one in ages. So we have Jung-ju, a 30-year-old woman whose life is going nowhere, and she blames her misery on a failed high school romance with Jo-ha-ni, who has since become a famous singer. Her old school friend, Oh Tae-hun, who used to have a big crush on her, is now a successful and wealthy businessman. So this is a different guy. And she regrets not having gone out with him instead. So after being given the chance to travel back in time, Jung-ju goes back to 1994, where she tries to convince her younger self to date the future businessman instead. So this begins with a flashback where our protagonist dates a hot bad boy in high school, and he gets a talent show invitation, and he's singing, and he promises her that he'll call her name during the interlude of his song. But the moment hits, and he dedicates the song to a different girl, which is pretty messed up, right? So then we cut to the present day, and you kind of understand this girl's frustrations, right? And she's still hung up on this dude. So she ends up running into the other guy in her adult life, and her former classmate, who she never really liked that much. But he's become this big-time businessman. So she's like, crap, I screwed up. I should have dated him, locked him down. So she considers the financially opportunistic advantages of wooing him. But you have time travel on her side, so she goes back in time and tries to convince her younger teenage self to date the loyal, consistent, boring good guy over the hot bad boy. And it's a difficult endeavor for her to accomplish this feat. So our protagonist in this movie isn't really that happy of a person. She's clumsy at her job. She works as a seamstress behind the scenes at fashion shows. But I think she insinuates to some people that she's like a fashion designer, or that she wants to be. And she forgets the memorial day of her mother's death early on, so she's kind of a mess. So while I was watching like the first half hour of this movie, I began to see some of the flaws that contributed to the mass hatred for the film when it first came out. Now, in the film's defense, there is some interesting content in terms of the comparison between the younger and older versions of the main character. She values different things when she's older compared to when she was younger, even when restricted to just romance. But very early on, you're questioning her motivations for the entire plot of the film. Because when she meets this guy in real life, right, in present day, she still doesn't like the guy that she didn't date in high school. And the only reason she's attempting to convince her younger self to date him is because he has money in the future. So the entire premise of the film is pretty shoddy and predatory, which can work if it's poking fun at itself. But it feels too genuine in its intention. So that's a problem in this, right? So you have to question this. Is this a sneaky parody of bad dating strategies? Is basically, I was thinking, like, is this a sneaky parody? And maybe it isn't taking itself seriously. And if you've been on the internet at all in the last half decade to decade, significant criticism of bad dating strategies has exploded on the internet and in real life. But this movie came out in 2007. So if the intention was a parody, it would have been an impressive satire that was ahead of its time. But I don't interpret it that way. I think the filmmakers don't lean into that parody aspect enough to properly lampoon it. It feels too genuine in what it's trying to say, and almost to the point of recommending these strategies, right? So in the end, our main protagonist, at the end of the day, you got to consider her to be genuinely desperate and opportunistic. And that's basically what our main character is. So it's pretty amusing to a degree. But despite these messaging problems, I still think that Operation Makeover is better than its reputation suggests. I'll still say it's better than what people say. There's some interesting events that transpire during the final half hour. And there's obviously the butterfly effect element of her changing things by being in the past. But there's an element of multidimensionality where the bad boy in the past just might change his demeanor if pushed in the right direction. And this creates a sense of uncertainty during the finale. And it was I liked it. I welcomed that aspect. Now, in terms of comedy, the film is on the cheesy side, especially the interactions involving the younger version of the future rich guy. He's a nice guy, but kind of pathetic and has no self-respect, which is common in romantic comedies, but it is here. The style of humor is less wacky than you might expect, though, given the genre. And because of this, I think the comedy overall is pretty good. I do think it's pretty good when all is said and done. And the method of time travel is ridiculous. I found it funny. Now, the lead actress in this is Ko So-young, who has a very small resume when I looked it up. She married Jang Dong-gun back in the day and then basically retired from the industry outside of like 1 or 2 K-dramas. You may be familiar with her if you were a fan of Korean horror films. She was in APT from 2006. Not the best Korean horror film, if I'm being honest, but you might recognize her from that. And she does a good job on Operation Makeover at making the character more likable despite the occasionally dodgy writing. Beom-soo has a small supporting role as the adult version of the rich guy. Always like seeing him, and he is showcased in the final scene. So in conclusion, I definitely overrated this movie back in the day. It is on the shallow side. It's deceptively immoral in some ways, but I do think it's watchable. And if you're someone who's already a fan of romantic comedies, maybe check it out. Although there's far better Korean rom-coms to watch over this. Now, currently available streaming on Tubi under its alternate title, Project Makeover. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.